Hi, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, survivor, and advocate from danaarcuri.com. And today's topic is a good one. It is called Beware of the Baiting Trap. And so first, let's talk about baiting, and then I'll share my experience, and then we'll end with some helpful tips to really be there to support you if you are experiencing narcissistic abuse or any kind of provoking and manipulation. All right, so baiting is the narcissist's deliberate act of provoking emotional response from you to confirm their superiority and their power over you. So basically, people who are toxic, they want to overpower you. They are on a power trip, and they will use baiting and provoking to stir up tension, conflict, and to really get you fired up. They're trying on purpose to upset you. This is the whole plan. And boy, oh boy, when we're not aware of what baiting is, and we might not understand the terminology, then we may not be able to help ourselves resolve the problem and find peace of mind. And so today, that is why I am sharing this message, because I had dealt with baiting and being provoked for years and years and years and years with toxic siblings, their bullying husbands, my mother, and various people, even strangers online. Yes, there's plenty of bullies online who will harass you and bait you, and I experience it quite often. And so we need to really arm ourselves with education, with knowledge, because this will empower us to stand firm in our own boundaries and have a higher quality of life. So let's talk about this. What it really is about is madness, absolute madness, because it's harmful. You know, baiting is harmful. It could be very cruel and malicious. It is a pathological person who can keep you hooked and baffled for years if you are just not even aware of what baiting and narcissistic abuse and toxic people, if you're not quite aware of any of this and you're just kind of confused, then you may not be able to advocate for yourself, which is why we need to talk about this. Okay, so narcissists are not the only ones who use these covert baiting tactics. Oh no, we have a whole community of sociopaths and unhealthy people who do love to use baiting. So we have the flying monkeys who love to do the dirty work of the narcissist. We have also toxic spouses, boyfriends, girlfriends, brothers, sisters, relatives, neighbors, employers and coworkers, and even strangers who are quite abusive and will bait and then bash us. And then they stand back and they just watch everything kind of explode, and you might be mad and you might be screaming or you might be crying, and oh, they are just delighted to see you all fired up. For years, oh dear Lord, I'm talking 5 decades, people, I was not educated or aware of this. I never heard of the word baiting except for people who went fishing. It was crazy because, you know, here all this nastiness is going on, all the nonsense and the gaslighting and the manipulation and the hoovering, and I didn't understand. I had no knowledge whatsoever in the early part of my childhood, my teen years, and my adult years. I was completely baffled whenever this happened to me. I didn't understand it. I was confused by it. I was outraged that someone would instigate trouble with me and get a kick out of it. And so it wasn't until around 2018 when I kind of just came out from under that dark veil and the fog lifted. The fog lifted, and boy, oh boy, was there clarity. And then I put all the pieces of the puzzle together and I solved the mystery, and I became educated about all the terminology with narcissistic abuse, including baiting. And so we must learn to understand what it's all about. And that way we could protect ourselves. We could be on the lookout for these types of unhealthy people, and we could find practical and realistic ways to shut them down and not give them the narcissistic supply that they're looking for. Okay, so sadly, in the 5 decades that I had been dealing with the toxic siblings and their bullying husbands and my mother and various people who I crossed paths with in my lifetime, I, in the beginning, didn't understand the baiting. And so it was like hook, line, and sinker. And each time I fell for it, and I would try to defend myself. I would try to explain myself. There were times I'd get mad. Maybe I'd start cussing them out, or maybe I would just break down in tears because I felt attacked. I felt that they were being so vicious, and I felt that their behavior was so unnecessary, causing division and stirring up all this tension within our relationship. And so in the early days, I just didn't get it. But boy, once you realize the whole dynamics of dysfunctional relationships, toxic relationships, narcissistic abuse, and et cetera, then you really wake up. Then the veil is lifted, and you could really arm yourself with some positive strategies to fight the good fight, people. Oh yeah, it's a fight, all right. But what happens is we're not actually going to be fighting. Instead, we're going to have strategies that are going to frustrate the toxic people. And I'll share about that in a minute. So in around 2017, 2018 is when I woke up to what was happening. That's really when I started waking up to so many things. It's like once the light is shining on the dark, you start waking up to the abuse and the sexual assaults and the censorship and being silenced and the gaslighting. All of a sudden, it all falls into place and you really get it. You grasp what's going on. And then you begin to learn to stand up for yourself and to advocate for you and your health. And so for me, once I could clearly see that, oh boy, they're using the baiting tactic on me and they're provoking me on purpose. Oh, I knew what they were doing then. And I knew they were trying to get a negative reaction from me. So it's all about reaction, an emotional reaction. They want you steaming mad. They want you crying and sobbing and hysterical. They want you just freaking out, flipping out and losing it, because then they're going to do the bait and switch and call you crazy. And then they're going to blame you. They're going to shame you. And they're going to say, oh my goodness, wow, look what's wrong with you. Oh, wow, you really need help. Yeah, that's what they do. So here are some examples of baiting. So practically every single time that I would visit my mother, she would use this baiting maneuver. Of course, for many years, I didn't know. I didn't understand. No sooner would I arrive to her home and would be chatting when she would start saying these horrible things to me. I mean, like out of nowhere. It's not even like we were on a specific topic. It's like it totally came out of context. It was unnecessary. It was unexpected. I never saw it coming. And out of her mouth, she would say horrible things to me, very, really hateful and hurtful, and it was intentional. And so she'd say things like, you spoil your kids too much. You let them get away with too much. You need to be strict. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to, and then she'd just go on this rampage of what she thinks I need to do. And basically then she'd carry on with baiting me to fight back, to defend myself, to say, these are my kids. Stop talking about my kids. She wanted me to fight back. That's what she wanted. That's the whole motive. They get a kick out of you fighting back. And then she'd switch it up. So she'd switch up her bait. whatever she was baiting, it was never the identical thing. It would change. So maybe one week she'd be battling with me and baiting me about my husband or my kids. Maybe the next time I would visit her, she would pick on my home, my car, where I live, something I'm planning. Maybe I'm writing something, and she'd start baiting me about something that was really nothing to do with her. And it was just for a negative reaction that she wanted to get out of me. Oftentimes, people who are quite unhealthy and toxic, they will pick on your appearance. That's a very sensitive topic. When people do the fat shaming or they say anything derogatory or extremely hurtful to you about your outer appearance. My mother started around 2017, 2018, baiting me with things about my appearance. So here's some examples. She would say to me, "Your rear end's getting too big," or "Your thighs look large in that picture." So maybe there was a real recent family picture, and then we're looking at the picture. And then she just starts baiting me by saying my thighs are too big. And so I had wised up. By like 2018, I wised up to her baiting tactics. So I started coming back with some witty comments. I would let her know by what I would say that she wasn't ruffling my feathers, that I was onto her. So if she would say something nasty like, "Your rear end's too big," or "Your thighs are getting large," I'd say to her, "Those are my best features. Oh, the men love it." I would just come back with something and it would be witty or it would be almost comical and funny. And I would laugh in her face. I would just laugh in her face. And if you could only see the expression on her face, she was ticked off that I didn't get upset, that I didn't fight back, that I didn't defend myself, and that I came back with something that I thought was kind of funny and humorous. And she got ticked because she really wanted me to fight back. She wanted to get me to react. And boy, oh boy, once I caught on, no, I'm not giving you no reaction, lady. Instead, I'm going to laugh in your face. I'm going to let you know. I think it's comical. What, you think my legs are too big or my rear end's too big or whatever? You think I'm gaining weight? And meanwhile, the reality is that my legs are my best attribute. They're my best feature. Even when I gain weight, my legs stay thin. I have what I consider nice legs. And so for her to attack like my thighs or my legs, I thought that was a bit pitiful. And it was like stooping really low. But again, I didn't react the way she wanted. And instead I tried to come off with a silly remark or something that was more witty. Or I would just ignore her. No response. Calm, cool, collect. Never say a word. Oh my goodness. I think when you do that, when you don't give them what they want, because trust me, they need that narcissistic supply. They want to push your buttons and make you freak out, flip out, cry, yell, scream, cuss. And when you're not giving them narcissistic supply, oh, they are steaming mad. Next is that once we do figure out, okay, this is what they're doing. They're baiting me. They're provoking me. They're stirring the pot. And then they're going to step back and they're going to watch you. And they want to watch you implode. The crying, the pity party, or the trying to defend yourself, and like the whole conflict. That's what they're after, because that makes them feel like they can overpower you and they have control over you. And I think the one thing I learned was, nope, not giving you, mama, what you want. Instead, I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to have a little fun, and I'm going to say a few things right back to you, lady, and let's see how you handle that. And the expression on her face, oh, fuming, and quite disappointed that she didn't get what she wanted. Okay, let's move on. Baiting is the act of deliberately annoying and provoking someone to extreme emotions. When a person baits another person, they are deliberately taunting you in order to provoke a negative response from the offender's attack. Next, baiting is like fishing. Goodness, this is something we need to remember. So make the mental picture in your head. Baiting is like fishing, and it's common for those who bully the scapegoats and the black sheep of the family. And so think about it. Pretend you're out there fishing and you're in this lake, you're on the lake or on a dock and you're fishing, and you put a little worm on the hook and you throw out your cast, your line, the fishing line. There are times that the fish might nibble a teeny weeny bit at the bait, but they might not eat it and you won't catch that fish. The same thing can happen when the narc or the toxic people are baiting you. You might nibble at it a teeny bit, but you might not bite like a full-fledged eat the whole worm kind of bite. And that really fires up the toxic people because they want you hook, line, and sinker. Next is that the narcissistic abuse targets you for fun and sport. So just like fishing is a sport, baiting you is a sport. They get off on this. They enjoy this. This makes them feel so powerful. Okay? The scapegoats and the black sheep in the family become the squirming worm on the hook. Baiting is common on the internet also, especially with cyberbullying, harassment, and stalking. The toxic people will try to bait you into a fight with them. We see this all the time on social media. They'll bait you, provoke you, and then they're just waiting. They're just waiting for you to grab onto that worm. They're waiting. Do you ever see that? Facebook is one common place. The toxic person will try to bait you into fighting with them, with quarreling with them. They love tormenting you and watching you squirm in order for them to feel good about themselves because they are so insecure. They puff themselves up and put you down. And that is part of baiting. So the whole thing is all about them feeling superior, them feeling like they have so much control over you, them feeling like they're powerful people. We must also understand that people who have a sound mind, stable people, would never bait you, okay? They're not baiting you. They have no need to do that nonsense. I've experienced baiting on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube, and in real life. So social media is a place where the bullying, the stalking, the baiting, and provoking happen. People with socially competitive personality types are prone to tricking you, manipulating you, and deceiving you, especially for no other reason than if they could just outright abuse you. So here are some tips for you today to arm yourself when that narc or toxic person or bully come by your way, whether it is on the internet or it's in real life. Number one, if you think someone is baiting and provoking you, don't react. So the number one key, don't react. So they're trying to get this emotional negative reaction out of you. Don't give them what they want. Next, number two, remain calm. Take a slow, deep breath and gain your composure. Number three, ignore the toxic person who's trying to bait you. This actually drives them nuts. They go crazy. They can't stand being ignored because they desire to be the center of attention. Number four, baiting is a big part of narcissistic supply. If you do not fall for it, then they lose their power over you. They cannot control you. Then you are no longer fun. You're not fun anymore, okay? If you don't go hook, line, and sinker, you're not fun. They get bored with you. They might just move on and find someone else who could be narcissistic supply. And next would be number five, Baiting is a game. It requires at least two people, if not more, the toxic person and yourself, and sometimes the flying monkeys. Do not play these mind games. It takes up a lot of time, energy, it's draining, it's ridiculous, not to mention extremely immature and childish. It's very junior high behavior. Next is number 6. Don't engage with people who use the baiting and provoking tactics. Instead, end the conversation. So whether it's online, end the conversation. Face to face, don't communicate with them. Email, ignore them. Don't respond, don't react. And just walk away. Walk away with your head held high in confidence that you caught on to the baiting trap and you're not going to fall for it anymore. And lastly, today, take your power back. Stand firm in your healthy boundaries, people. Consider going no contact with people who use the bait and provoke tactics, who are malicious folks who insist on baiting you and using all kind of crazy three-ring circus behaviors with the gaslighting and the smear campaigns, the retaliation, hoovering, silencing. No, today, these are important signs and samples of baiting, and now you are armed. Now you're more aware, and now with this education, you can use it to advocate for yourself. So share with me, has anyone done this to you? The whole baiting, the provoking, and if so, how did you respond, and what did you learn from it? And if you'd like more encouragement and inspiration, you could go to danaarcuri.com. Thanks and have a great day.